The howling wind screamed like a banshee as Olivia Sullivan stumbled through knee-deep snow, her frozen fingers clutching the thin shawl around her shoulders. Blood trickled from her split lip, and her left eye was swollen shut, fresh reminders of why she'd fled into the merciless January blizzard of 1878. Death by cold seemed preferable to another night under the same roof as Edgar Sullivan, the man who had promised to love and cherish her, but instead had made her life a living hell for 3 long years. Nebraska winters showed no mercy, especially not to a woman wearing nothing but a torn dress and thin shawl. Olivia had escaped their homestead just outside Nebraska City with nothing but the clothes on her back when Edgar had passed out from whiskey. She'd watched him fall into a drunken stupor by the fire before slipping out into the storm, knowing it might be her only chance. The bruises on her ribs ached with each labored breath as she pushed forward, no destination in mind except away. The snow had started falling gently that morning, but by afternoon it had turned vicious. Now, as night descended, Olivia couldn't see more than a foot ahead. Her legs moved mechanically, though she'd lost feeling in her feet hours ago. Her thoughts grew sluggish, and somewhere in the back of her mind, she remembered hearing that feeling warm before freezing to death was a bad sign. Yet she felt almost comfortable now, the pain in her body dulling as numbness spread. "Just a little rest," she murmured, her voice carried away by the howling wind. The snowbank ahead looked soft, inviting. Olivia sank to her knees, then curled onto her side. The cold wasn't so bad anymore. In fact, she felt almost peaceful as her eyelids grew heavy. A shadow loomed above her, tall, dark, and wavering in her fading vision. Was this death coming to claim her? Olivia wasn't afraid. She welcomed the end of pain. "Jesus Christ," a deep voice cut through the howling wind. Strong arms scooped her up, and Olivia felt herself being lifted against a broad chest. "Hold on, madam. I've got you." She wanted to protest, to say she was fine right where she was, but no words came. Darkness closed in, and Olivia surrendered to it willingly. Heat. That was the first sensation that returned, searing, almost painful heat against her frozen skin. Olivia moaned, trying to escape it. "Easy now," that same deep voice rumbled. "You're safe." Olivia's eyes fluttered open, though only her right eye cooperated fully. A man she'd never seen before knelt beside her. He was placing another log on a roaring fire in a stone hearth. She was in a small cabin, wrapped in multiple blankets on a narrow bed. Panic seized her chest. "Edgar," she gasped, trying to sit up. "There's no one here but us," the stranger said, turning toward her with palms raised. "Name's Isaac Tucker. Found you half frozen in the snow about a mile from my property." His eyes, a startling clear blue, widened as they took in her bruised face in the firelight. His expression darkened. "Someone did that to you?" It wasn't a question. Olivia looked away, shame burning her cheeks more fiercely than the fire warmed her skin. "My husband," she whispered. Isaac stood slowly, his tall frame unfolding like a mountain rising. He wore simple clothes, a flannel shirt, worn denim pants, suspenders. His dark hair was overgrown and a neat beard covered his jaw. He looked to be about 30, perhaps a few years older than her 25 years. "I'll make some coffee," he said finally, moving to a small stove in the corner of the one-room cabin. "You need warming from the inside, too." Olivia watched him warily. Men, in her experience, were not to be trusted. Even the gentlest ones could turn cruel when crossed. "What will you want in return?" she asked bluntly. Isaac turned, coffee pot in hand, genuine confusion on his face. "Pardon for helping me, for letting me stay here." Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed by something that looked like anger, though it didn't seem directed at her. "Nothing, madam. I don't want anything from you except to see you recover." He returned to the stove, his back to her. "I'm a rancher. Live alone out here with my horses and cattle. Been through enough Nebraska winters to know no one survives a night like this without shelter." After a moment he added quietly, "And I know what it means when a woman has marks like those, whoever did that to you." He paused, his shoulders tense, He'll never touch you again, not while I draw breath. The conviction in his voice made Olivia shiver, though not from cold. She didn't know this man, this Isaac Tucker, but something in his steady gaze made her believe him. "My name is Olivia," she offered. "Olivia Sullivan." Isaac nodded, pouring steaming coffee into a chipped mug. "Rest, Mrs. Sullivan. We'll figure the rest out when the storm passes." The blizzard raged for 3 days. During that time, Olivia drifted in and out of sleep, her body recovering from both the cold and the beating that had preceded her flight. Isaac proved to be a quiet, respectful presence. He slept on a bedroll near the fire, giving her the only bed. He tended his livestock in the adjacent barn during breaks in the storm, brought her food and water, and asked nothing of her except whether she was comfortable. On the 4th day, when Olivia could stand without dizziness, she insisted on helping with the cooking. "Been fending for myself for 5 years, Isaac said with a small smile. "Not sure my cooking's worth saving." "Please," Olivia said. "I need to do something. I can't just lie there anymore." He studied her for a moment, then nodded, handing her a potato and a knife. They worked in companionable silence, preparing a simple stew. Olivia found the normalcy of the task comforting after days of feeling helpless. "How long have you been married?" Isaac asked as they sat eating at his small table. Olivia stared into her bowl. 3 years. "We married when I was 22. Edgar was charming, then the most handsome man in Nebraska City. My father had just died and I was alone. Edgar seemed like safety." She laughed bitterly. "I learned quickly how wrong I was." Isaac listened without interrupting, his expression thoughtful. "When did he start hurting you?" he asked finally. 6 months after we wed. He lost money gambling, started drinking more. The first time he apologized for days, brought me wildflowers, swore it would never happen again." Olivia touched her healing lip. "It only got worse, this last time. I thought he might kill me." Isaac's hand tightened around his spoon. "You can't go back to him." "I have nowhere else to go," Olivia replied simply. "No family, no money of my own." "Stay here," Isaac said, the words seeming to surprise even him, "until you figure something out." "I have the space, and winter's no time to be traveling anyway." Olivia studied him, searching for ulterior motives in his steady gaze and finding none. "Why would you do that for a stranger?" Isaac was quiet for so long that Olivia thought he might not answer. Finally, he set down his spoon and rolled up his left sleeve. A jagged scar ran from his wrist halfway to his elbow. "My father was like your husband," he said quietly. "Mean drunk, used his fists and whatever else was handy when the mood struck him. My mother took it for years. Then one night when I was 14, he went too far. I tried to stop him." He gestured to the scar. "Got this for my trouble. She died that night." Olivia's hand moved unconsciously to cover his. "I'm sorry." Isaac shrugged, though the pain in his eyes belied the casual gesture. "I left home the next day, never looked back. Built this place with my own hands, promised myself I'd never be like him." His blue eyes locked with hers. "So I understand wanting to escape, and I know what happens to those who don't get away in time." That night, as the wind continued to howl outside the cabin walls, Olivia lay awake listening to Isaac's steady breathing from his place by the fire. For the first time in years, she felt safe. The next few weeks established a routine. Isaac taught Olivia about ranch life, how to feed the horses and cattle, how to milk the 2 dairy cows, how to mend fences when the weather permitted. She took over cooking and cleaning the cabin, finding satisfaction in creating order and comfort in the simple space. They were careful with each other, maintaining polite distance despite living in such close quarters. Isaac never entered the sleeping area once Olivia retired for the night, and she was always fully dressed before emerging in the mornings. They spoke of daily tasks, of the weather, of Isaac's animals, but rarely of their pasts or futures. February brought a brief thaw. The snow melted enough that the main road to Nebraska City became passable. Olivia knew she should find work as a seamstress or housekeeper, start building a life away from Edgar. but the thought of returning to town where her husband might find her filled her with dread. "I should go," she said one evening as they sat by the fire. "I've imposed on your kindness too long." Isaac looked up from the bridle he was repairing. "You haven't imposed, having someone else around has been." He searched for the word nice. Olivia smiled. "Still, I need to find work. I can't live off your charity forever." "There's plenty of work here," Isaac said carefully. "Spring's coming. I'll have calves and foals being born, fields to plant. Could use an extra pair of hands. And what would people say? A woman living unchaperoned with a bachelor. Since when do I care what people say?" Isaac replied with a hint of a smile. "I go to town twice a year for supplies. Rest of the time it's just me and the livestock. Edgar will look for me," Olivia said softly, "when the snow melts completely." Isaac set aside the bridle and leaned forward. "Let him come. This is my land, my home." The protectiveness in his voice warmed Olivia more than the fire. She'd never had someone willing to stand between her and harm before. The realization brought unexpected tears to her eyes. "Hey now," Isaac said, alarmed at her tears. "I didn't mean to upset you." Olivia shook her head, wiping her cheeks. "You didn't. It's just, thank you for everything." Their eyes met across the small space and something shifted between them, an acknowledgement of feelings neither was ready to name. March arrived with warmer days and the first signs of spring. The snow receded, revealing muddy earth eager to green. True to Isaac's prediction, the first calves arrived, keeping them both busy day and night. Olivia discovered she had a knack for animal husbandry, her gentle hands calming nervous first-time mother cows. One night, after helping deliver twins from Isaac's prize heifer, they sat on the cabin's small porch watching the stars emerge. They were both exhausted but pleased with the successful births. "You're a natural," Isaac said, passing her a cup of coffee. "Most city folks take months to get comfortable with the animals." "I've always loved animals," Olivia replied. "Edgar wouldn't let me have so much as a cat, said they were useless mouths to feed." Isaac's jaw tightened at the mention of her husband, as it always did. "Well, you've got about 30 cows, a dozen horses, and 4 barn cats now. Think that makes up for it?" Olivia laughed, and the sound surprised her. When had she last truly laughed? "It certainly does." They fell into comfortable silence, sipping their coffee and watching the moonrise over the rolling hills of Isaac's property. It wasn't a large ranch by Nebraska standards, but the 100 acres were well tended, with good pastures, a sturdy barn, and enough arable land to grow feed for the winter. "How did you end up here?" Olivia asked. "After you left home, I mean." Isaac stretched his long legs out before him. "Worked as a ranch hand for years, drove cattle from Texas to Kansas, fought in a few skirmishes during the war, though I was young, barely 16 when it ended. Eventually saved enough to buy this place 7 years ago, been building it up ever since." "You've done well," Olivia said sincerely. "It's a beautiful ranch. It's lonely sometimes," Isaac admitted, the words seeming to surprise him. He glanced at her, then quickly away. "But peaceful. No one telling me what to do or how to live. Freedom," Olivia murmured. "That's what I want most, just to make my own choices." "You have that here," Isaac said quietly, "for as long as you want it." Their hands rested inches apart on the porch step. Neither moved to close the distance, but both were acutely aware of the proximity. The next morning, Olivia rode with Isaac to check the north pasture fence. He'd been teaching her to ride. She'd never had the opportunity before, and she'd taken to it with enthusiasm. The mare he'd assigned her, a gentle, dappled gray named Willow, seemed to sense her initial nervousness and behaved impeccably. "I'm thinking we should plant more corn this year," Isaac said as they rode side by side. "Prices were good last fall." Olivia noted his use of we but didn't comment on it. "How much land do you usually plant?" 10 acres. "Could do 15 with help." "I've never farmed before," Olivia warned. Isaac smiled. "Neither had I before coming here. You learn by doing." They crested a small hill and Isaac reined his horse to a stop. Olivia followed suit, gazing out over the view. From this vantage point, they could see the entire ranch spread before them, the cabin and barn in the distance, the winding creek that cut through the property, the herds of cattle grazing in the lower pastures. "Sometimes I can't believe this is all mine," Isaac said softly. "After growing up with nothing, having land of my own still feels like a dream." Olivia understood. After years of feeling like she owned nothing, not even her own body, the freedom of the past months had been intoxicating. She watched Isaac's profile as he surveyed his domain, noting the pride in his expression. In the months she'd known him, she'd come to admire his quiet strength, his unwavering respect for her boundaries, his gentle way with animals and land alike. "It's a dream you've built with your own hands," she said. "You should be proud." Isaac turned to her, something warm in his gaze that made her heart skip. "Thank you for saying that." They continued their ride, checking and repairing fences where needed. By the time they returned to the cabin, the sun was setting. As they unsaddled the horses, Isaac suddenly tensed. "Someone's been here," he said quietly. Olivia followed his gaze. Nothing seemed amiss at first glance, but then she noticed the cabin door stood slightly ajar. Isaac always latched it securely, even when they were just in the barn. "Stay with the horses," Isaac instructed, reaching for the rifle he kept mounted on his saddle. "No," Olivia said firmly, "I won't hide." After a moment's hesitation, she added, "It might be Edgar." Isaac's expression darkened, but he nodded. "Stay behind me." They approached the cabin cautiously. Isaac pushed the door open with the barrel of his rifle, then stepped inside. Olivia followed close behind, her heart hammering. The cabin appeared empty, but someone had clearly been there. Drawers stood open, their contents disturbed. The mattress had been partially pulled from the bed frame, and Olivia's few belongings, the spare dress Isaac had purchased for her in town, the hairbrush she used, were scattered on the floor. "Looking for valuables," Isaac said grimly, checking the small lockbox where he kept what little cash he had. "It's still here. They must have been interrupted." Olivia's relief was short-lived. On the table sat an object that made her blood run cold, a man's glove. She recognized it immediately. "Edgar was here," she whispered, picking up the leather glove. "This is his. He must have dropped it while searching." Isaac took the glove, his expression hardening. "He knows you're here then." "He'll come back," Olivia said, fear constricting her throat. "He won't let me go." "In his mind, I belong to him." "You belong to no one but yourself," Isaac said firmly, setting his rifle aside and taking her trembling hands in his. "And I meant what I said the night I found you. He will never hurt you again." That night, despite Olivia's protests, Isaac insisted on sleeping inside the cabin rather than in the barn where he'd been staying to give her privacy. He made his bedroll near the door, rifle within reach. "I won't be able to sleep knowing he could return," Isaac explained. Olivia lay awake long after Isaac's breathing had deepened into sleep. The knowledge that Edgar had been in this space had touched her things, had searched for her, made her skin crawl. She'd begun to feel safe here, to imagine a future free from fear. Now that illusion was shattered. Before dawn, Olivia rose quietly and dressed. She packed her few belongings in a small bundle and crept toward the door. Isaac's tall form blocked the way, his breathing steady in sleep. Olivia paused, looking down at him. In repose, his face appeared younger, the usual watchfulness smoothed away. Something ached in her chest at the thought of leaving him, but she couldn't put him in danger. Edgar was a violent man. If he found her here, he might harm Isaac too. As if sensing her presence, Isaac's eyes opened. He looked up at her, then at the bundle in her hands, understanding dawning immediately. "You're running," he said quietly, sitting up. "I have to," Olivia replied. "Edgar won't stop looking. I can't bring that danger to your doorstep after all you've done for me." Isaac stood, towering over her in the dim pre-dawn light. "And where will you go? Back to town where he can find you more easily. To another city where you know no one." He shook his head. "That's not the answer, Olivia." "What is the answer then?" she demanded, tears threatening. "Live here in fear, watch over my shoulder every day. Put you at risk when he inevitably returns, face him," Isaac said simply. We face him together on our terms, not his. He's dangerous, Olivia warned. So am I when someone threatens what I care about, Isaac replied, his voice low and fierce. The intensity in his eyes made Olivia's breath catch. No one had ever looked at her that way before, like she was worth fighting for, worth protecting at all costs. You barely know me, she whispered. Isaac's expression softened. I know enough. I know you're strong, stronger than you realize. I know you're kind and gentle with the animals. I know you sing to yourself when you think no one's listening. A small smile touched his lips. I know the sound of your laughter makes something in my chest tighten. I know these past months have been the least lonely of my life. Olivia's heart pounded. She hadn't allowed herself to acknowledge the growing feelings between them, too afraid of what it might mean, too certain that any happiness would be snatched away. But now, with Isaac standing before her in the half-light, his words hanging in the air between them, she couldn't deny it any longer. I'm afraid, she admitted. Not just of Edgar, of this, she gestured between them. I trusted once before and it nearly destroyed me. I'm not asking for your trust all at once, Isaac said. Just don't run, stay, give us a chance to figure this out together. Olivia hesitated, then slowly set down her bundle. What do we do about Edgar? We prepare, Isaac said grimly. And when he comes, we show him you're not alone anymore. The next few days were tense. Isaac reinforced the locks on the cabin and barn, kept the horses saddled and ready, and taught Olivia how to use a revolver just in case, he insisted, though she hoped she'd never need to fire it. They took turns keeping watch, never leaving the ranch unattended. The work continued. Animals needed tending, crops needed planting, but an undercurrent of vigilance ran beneath their daily routine. One afternoon, as Olivia collected eggs from the chicken coop, she heard hoofbeats approaching. Heart racing, she slipped the small revolver from her pocket and peered cautiously around the coop door. A lone rider approached from the main road, but it wasn't Edgar. This man was older, gray-haired, wearing the dusty clothes of a ranch hand. He rode directly to where Isaac was repairing a wagon wheel. Olivia watched as the men spoke, Isaac's posture growing increasingly tense. After several minutes, the stranger rode away and Isaac strode purposefully toward the chicken coop. News? Olivia asked as he approached. Isaac nodded grimly. That was Jim Harker from the Triple B Ranch south of here. He says Edgar Sullivan has been asking all over the county about a missing wife and a rancher named Tucker. Olivia's stomach clenched. He knows I'm here. It seems so. Harker says Sullivan's been drinking heavily in town, making threats. Isaac ran a hand through his hair in frustration. He's been telling people you were kidnapped, that I took you. That's ridiculous. I left of my own free will. Men like Sullivan twist the truth to suit themselves, Isaac said bitterly. According to Harker, the sheriff isn't taking the accusations seriously. He knows Sullivan's reputation, but that might not stop your husband from trying something on his own. Or with help, Olivia added, fear creeping up her spine. Edgar has friends, other men who drink and gamble with him. They might believe his lies. Isaac's expression hardened. Then we need to be ready. That night, sleep eluded them both. They sat at the table cleaning Isaac's firearms, the rifle, his revolver, and the small gun he'd given Olivia. I never thought I'd be prepared to shoot another person, Olivia said quietly, her fingers awkward on the gun parts. With luck, it won't come to that, Isaac replied. Sometimes just the knowledge that you can defend yourself is enough to deter trouble. Not with Edgar, Olivia said, shaking her head. He enjoys breaking things that resist him. Isaac reached across the table, covering her hand with his. You're not alone this time. The warmth of his touch grounded her, and Olivia turned her hand to interlace her fingers with his. It was the first time they'd held hands, and the simple contact sent warmth spreading through her chest. I wish we'd met differently, she said softly. Before Edgar, before all of this. Isaac's thumb traced gentle circles on her wrist. We can't change the past, but the future is still unwritten. Their eyes met across the table, And Olivia saw in his gaze all the things neither of them had dared to speak aloud: hope, longing, a promise of something that could be, if they were brave enough to reach for it. The moment was shattered by the distant sound of horses approaching, multiple horses, moving fast. Isaac was on his feet instantly, dousing the lamp. "Get your gun," he whispered. "Stay low and away from the windows." Olivia's fingers trembled as she checked the revolver, ensuring it was loaded as Isaac had taught her. Outside, the hoofbeats grew louder, then stopped. Male voices carried through the night air. 3, maybe 4 men. "Tucker," a slurred voice bellowed. "Come out, you wife-stealing bastard." Edgar? Olivia would know that voice anywhere. Her pulse thundered in her ears as memories of pain and terror washed over her. Isaac moved to her side, his face grim in the dim moonlight filtering through the window. "That's him," Olivia nodded mutely. "He's drunk," Isaac observed. "And he's not alone." "What do we do?" Olivia whispered. "I'll talk to them," Isaac said. "Try to reason with them." "Edgar doesn't reason, especially not when he's been drinking. Then I'll convince them to leave by other means." Isaac checked his revolver. "Stay inside. If things go bad, there's a trapdoor under the rug by the pantry. Root cellar beneath. Hide there." Before Olivia could protest, Isaac moved to the door, pistol in hand. He opened it just enough to call out, "This is private property, Sullivan. You and your friends need to leave." "Not without what's mine," Edgar shouted. "Send out my wife, Tucker, and maybe I won't burn this place to the ground." "Your wife isn't here," Isaac replied calmly. "And even if she were, she'd be free to choose where she wants to be." Harsh laughter answered him. "That's not how marriage works, boy. She made vows before God. She belongs with me." "No woman belongs to any man," Isaac called back. "Now I'm asking you nicely, take your friends and go. Come back in the morning when you're sober if you want to talk." A gunshot cracked through the night, splintering the wood of the doorframe inches from Isaac's head. He ducked back inside, jaw tight. "So much for talking," he muttered. "I count 4 of them," Olivia said, peering cautiously through a gap in the curtains. "Edgar and 3 others, they're armed." "Coward," Isaac muttered. "Needs 3 men to back him up." He moved to another window for a better view. "They're spreading out, planning to surround the cabin." Another shot rang out, followed by the crash of breaking glass as a bullet shattered the window on the far wall. "Get down." Isaac pulled Olivia to the floor as more shots followed. "Tucker," Edgar shouted. "We can do this all night. Send Olivia out now, or we start shooting at your barn. How long before we hit a lantern and the whole place goes up?" Olivia felt sick. "He'll do it. He'll burn everything." "Let him try," Isaac growled. "No," Olivia said firmly. "I won't let you lose everything because of me." She stood, brushing off Isaac's restraining hand. "I need to talk to him." "Olivia, no, trust me," she said, meeting his eyes. "I lived with him for 3 years. I know how to handle him." She tucked the small revolver into the pocket of her skirt. "Just be ready." Before Isaac could stop her, Olivia moved to the door. "Edgar," she called. "It's me. I'm coming out to talk. Tell your friends to hold their fire. Livy." Edgar's voice changed, taking on a cajoling tone she knew all too well. "Come on out, darling. Let's go home." Olivia opened the door slowly, hands raised to show she was unarmed. She stepped onto the porch, heart hammering. The yard was dimly lit by the quarter moon overhead. 4 men on horseback faced her, Edgar at their center. Even in the darkness, she could see he was unshaven, disheveled. He swayed slightly in the saddle, bottle in hand. "There's my girl," he slurred. "I've been worried sick. This man kidnapped you, didn't he? Took you during the blizzard." Olivia took a deep breath. "No, Edgar, I left on my own. I ran away because I couldn't take the beatings anymore." Edgar's expression darkened. "Now, Livy, don't start telling tales. We had some disagreements, sure, but you nearly killed me," Olivia interrupted, her voice growing stronger. "The night of the blizzard, you broke my ribs, blackened my eye. I thought I would die if I stayed." One of Edgar's companions shifted uncomfortably in his saddle. "Sullivan, you said she was taken against her will." "She's confused," Edgar snapped. "Been filled with lies by that rancher." He extended a hand toward Olivia. "Come home, Livy. I forgive you for running off. Things will be different now." Olivia felt a strange calm settle over her. For 3 years she had cowered before this man, believing she had no choice, no power. But standing on Isaac's porch, with Isaac himself just inside the door ready to defend her if needed, she finally saw Edgar clearly not a fearsome tyrant, but a weak, pathetic drunk who could only feel strong by hurting those weaker than himself. "No, Edgar," she said clearly. "I'm not coming back. Not now, not ever. Our marriage is over." Edgar's face contorted with rage. "You don't get to decide that." He raised the revolver in his hand, aiming it directly at her. "If I can't have you, no one will." Several things happened at once. Isaac burst through the door, shouting Olivia's name. Olivia reached for the gun in her pocket. Edgar's finger tightened on the trigger. The shot that rang out didn't come from Edgar's gun, nor from Isaac's. It came from behind the group of riders, a sharp crack that made Edgar jerk in the saddle, dropping his weapon as he clutched his shoulder. "That's enough, Sullivan," a stern voice called. Sheriff Daniel Matthews rode into view, rifle still raised. Behind him, 2 deputies emerged from the darkness, their own weapons trained on Edgar's companions. "Drop your weapons, all of you." Edgar's friends complied immediately, clearly wanting no part of a shootout with the law. Edgar himself slumped in his saddle, blood seeping between the fingers pressed to his shoulder. "She's my wife," he slurred, his face pale with shock and pain. "I have rights." "Not to shoot her, you don't," the sheriff replied dryly. "And not to trespass and threaten honest folk." He nodded to Isaac and Olivia. "Tucker, Mrs. Sullivan, you both all right?" Isaac had moved to Olivia's side, one arm protectively around her shoulders. "We're unharmed, Sheriff." "How did you know to come?" "Jim Harker stopped by my office after he visited you," Sheriff Matthews explained. "Said Sullivan was making threats, gathering men, thought I should know." He gestured to Edgar. "This one's got a reputation, not the first time he's been in trouble for violent behavior." "He tried to kill me," Olivia said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her limbs. "He said if he couldn't have me, no one could. We all heard it," one of the deputies confirmed. "That's so." The sheriff studied Edgar with disgust. "Well then, Mr. Sullivan, you're under arrest for attempted murder, threatening with a deadly weapon, and trespassing. The judge should be quite interested to hear this case." As the deputies disarmed and handcuffed Edgar and his companions, the sheriff turned back to Isaac and Olivia. "Mrs. Sullivan, you'll need to come to town tomorrow to make a formal statement," he said. "And I'd suggest you speak to Judge Wilson about divorce proceedings. Given the circumstances, I don't think you'll have much trouble there." Olivia nodded, relief and disbelief warring within her. "Thank you, Sheriff." After the lawmen departed with their prisoners, Olivia and Isaac stood in stunned silence on the porch, watching the dust settle on the moonlit road. "Is it really over?" Olivia whispered. Just like that, Isaac's arm tightened around her. "The sheriff's a good man. And from what I've heard, Judge Wilson doesn't look kindly on men who beat their wives, with the attempted murder charge." He trailed off, then added softly, "I think it's over, Olivia. You're free, free." The word echoed in Olivia's mind as she stood there in the cool spring night, Isaac's warm presence beside her. Free from Edgar, free from fear, free to choose her own path. She turned to face Isaac, looking up at the man who had saved her life in more ways than one. "I don't know what happens now," she admitted. "I've never been on my own before. I went from my father's house to Edgar's." Isaac's blue eyes were serious in the moonlight. "You don't have to be on your own unless you want to be." "What are you saying?" Olivia asked, heart quickening. "I'm saying..." Isaac took a deep breath. "I'm saying these past months with you here have been the happiest of my life. I'm saying I think about you every moment we're apart, and when we're together, everything just feels right." He took her hands gently in his. "I'm saying I've fallen in love with you, Olivia Sullivan. And if you need time or space or just friendship, I'll give you that. But if there's any chance you might someday feel for me what I feel for you..." Olivia silenced him by rising on her tiptoes and pressing her lips to his. Isaac froze for a heartbeat, then his arms encircled her waist, drawing her closer as he returned the kiss with gentle reverence. When they finally parted, both breathless, Olivia smiled up at him. I think I've been falling in love with you since the night you found me in the snow, she confessed. I was just too afraid to admit it, even to myself. Isaac rested his forehead against hers. You don't have to be afraid anymore, not of Edgar, not of being alone, and certainly not of me. I swear on my life I will never raise a hand to you in anger. I will never try to own you or control you. I know, Olivia whispered, and she did. In every action since the night he'd rescued her, Isaac had shown her what a good man truly was, not through grand gestures or pretty words, but through consistent kindness, respect, and gentle strength. The next day they rode to Nebraska City together. Olivia gave her statement to Sheriff Matthews, detailing not only the previous night's events, but the years of abuse she had suffered at Edgar's hands. The sheriff, to his credit, listened with respect and without judgment. Edgar Sullivan will face serious charges, he assured her. With multiple witnesses to his attempted murder, he's looking at years in prison. From the sheriff's office, they went to see Judge Wilson about divorce proceedings. The elderly judge, known for his no-nonsense approach to justice, reviewed her case with grave attention. Normally, divorce is a lengthy and difficult process, especially for a woman, he told her. But given the circumstances, the documented abuse, the attempted murder witnessed by law enforcement, I believe we can expedite matters considerably. He peered at her over his spectacles. You understand, Mrs. Sullivan, that divorced women face certain social challenges. I understand, Your Honor, Olivia replied, but I'd rather face those challenges as a free woman than remain legally bound to a man who tried to kill me. The judge nodded approvingly. Well said. I'll have the papers drawn up immediately. Given Sullivan's crimes and incarceration, I don't foresee any legal objections from his side. As they left the courthouse, Olivia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The spring air seemed fresher, the sunlight brighter. Isaac took her hand as they walked toward the general store where he needed to purchase supplies. Are you all right? He asked, studying her face. It's been quite a day. Olivia smiled. Better than all right, I feel reborn. Their visit to town caused quite a stir. Nebraska City was small enough that news traveled fast, and by the time they reached the general store, curious glances and whispers followed them. Some were sympathetic, others judgmental. Olivia held her head high, drawing strength from Isaac's solid presence beside her. At the general store, Mrs. Peterson, the owner's wife, approached them directly. Mrs. Sullivan, she said, her expression stern. I heard about what happened last night. Olivia tensed, preparing for condemnation, but Mrs. Peterson surprised her by taking her hands and squeezing them warmly. Thank the Lord you're safe, the older woman said. That man should have been locked up years ago. My Eliza worked for you for a time and she told me things. Well, no woman should endure such treatment. Thank you, Mrs. Peterson, Olivia said, touched by the unexpected support. Not everyone was so kind. As they left the store, a group of women outside the millinery across the street stared openly, their disapproval evident. One leaned to whisper to another, loud enough to be heard. Living in sin with a rancher while still married. Disgraceful. Isaac's jaw tightened, but Olivia squeezed his arm. It doesn't matter, she said quietly. They don't know the truth, and even if they did, their opinions can't hurt me anymore. They completed their errands and returned to the ranch by late afternoon. As they unpacked the supplies, Isaac grew uncharacteristically quiet. What's wrong? Olivia finally asked as they stored the last of the flour and sugar. Isaac sighed, leaning against the kitchen counter. Those women in town, the things they said. I don't want you to face that kind of talk because of me. I told you, it doesn't matter what they think. It matters to me, Isaac insisted. Your reputation, my reputation, Olivia laughed softly. Isaac, I'm about to be a divorced woman in 1878. My reputation is already beyond saving in the eyes of polite society. She moved closer to him, placing a hand on his chest. The only opinion that matters to me is yours. Isaac covered her hand with his blue eyes serious. I want to do right by you, Olivia, in every way. You already have, she assured him. You saved my life, you gave me shelter when I had nowhere to go, you taught me to trust again, to believe in my own strength. I want to give you more than that, Isaac said quietly. A home, a family, a lifetime. He took a deep breath. I know it's too soon. You're just beginning to free yourself from Sullivan, and I don't want to rush you. But I need you to know that whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, I want to marry you, Olivia. I want to build a life with you, right here on this land. Olivia's heart swelled with emotion. Isaac Tucker, are you proposing to me? A small, uncertain smile played at his lips. I suppose I am. Poorly and at an inappropriate time, but yes. Ask me again when my divorce is final, Olivia said softly, and I promise I'll say yes. The joy that transformed Isaac's face was like sunrise breaking over the plains. He gathered her in his arms, lifting her off her feet in his excitement, and Olivia laughed a free, unrestrained sound that echoed through the cabin that was beginning to feel like home. The next few months passed in a blur of activity. Spring gave way to summer, bringing with it long days of sunshine and work. The crops Isaac had planted with Olivia's help grew tall and strong. The new calves and foals flourished under their care. And slowly, cautiously, their relationship deepened. They still maintained separate sleeping areas, Isaac insisting on propriety, despite Olivia's increasingly bold suggestions that such formality was unnecessary between two adults who had already declared their love. But their days were filled with shared labor, quiet conversations, and an easy companionship that felt more like home to Olivia than any place she'd ever lived. In late July, Sheriff Matthews rode out to the ranch with news. Edgar Sullivan had been tried and convicted of attempted murder, assault, and various other charges. The judge had sentenced him to 15 years in the territorial prison. And this is for you, Mrs. Sullivan, the sheriff said, handing Olivia an official-looking document. Judge Wilson finalized your divorce yesterday, said to tell you he expedited it given the unusual circumstances. Olivia stared at the paper in her hands, scarcely believing it was real. After all the fear, all the pain, her marriage was legally ended. She was free. Thank you, Sheriff, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. After the sheriff departed, Olivia and Isaac stood on the porch, the divorce decree between them on the small table where they often took evening coffee. So, Isaac said, his voice carefully neutral, you're no longer Mrs. Sullivan? No, Olivia agreed. I'm just Olivia now. Isaac took her hands in his. I made you a promise, Olivia. I said I'd ask again when your divorce was final. He lowered himself to one knee, still holding her hands. I don't have a ring yet. I can go to town tomorrow if you want one, but I can't wait another day to ask. Olivia, will you marry me? Tears blurred Olivia's vision as she looked down at this man who had changed her life so completely. Yes, she whispered. Yes, Isaac Tucker, I will marry you. Isaac rose to his feet and kissed her, a kiss full of promise and future. They were married 2 weeks later in the small church in Nebraska City. The ceremony was simple, attended by just a few of Isaac's neighboring ranchers and their wives. Judge Wilson performed the ceremony, having offered his services when he learned of their engagement. It does my old heart good to see a happy beginning after such a difficult ending, the judge told them after pronouncing them husband and wife, Mrs. Peterson from the general store had organized a small reception in the church hall. To Olivia's surprise, several townswomen who had previously whispered behind their hands now approached with congratulations and small gifts. People love a romance, Mrs. Peterson explained with a wink. Especially one with a hero who rescues a damsel in distress. I rescued myself, Olivia corrected gently. Isaac just provided shelter from the storm. And my heart, Isaac added, sliding an arm around his new wife's waist. Don't forget that part. The summer sun was setting as they drove the wagon back to their ranch, their home. Golden light bathed the rolling hills, and a sense of peace settled over Olivia like a comfortable blanket. Happy? Isaac asked, glancing at her as he guided the horses homeward. More than I ever thought possible, Olivia replied honestly. She looked down at the simple gold band on her finger, still marveling at its presence. I never thought I'd wear a wedding ring again, never thought I'd want to. I'll spend every day making sure you never regret it, Isaac promised. That night, as husband and wife, they came together with tender passion. Isaac's touch was reverent, his patience infinite as he helped Olivia reclaim intimacy as something beautiful rather than fearful. In his arms, she found healing and joy beyond anything she had imagined possible. Autumn came to the Nebraska plains, bringing with it the harvest. Together, Isaac and Olivia brought in the crops they had planted in the spring, storing away food for themselves and the animals for the coming winter. The work was hard but satisfying, and each evening they fell into bed exhausted but content. "I'm thinking of expanding the herd next spring," Isaac said one night as they sat by the fire. "Maybe build a second barn." "Ambitious," Olivia remarked with a smile. "Any particular reason?" Isaac hesitated, then set aside the bridle he'd been repairing. "I've been thinking about the future, our future. This land, this ranch. I want it to be something we can pass on someday to our children." A warm flush spread through Olivia's chest. They hadn't discussed children explicitly, though both had hinted at the possibility. "I'd like that," she said softly. "A family of our own." Isaac's face lit up. "Really, I wasn't sure if you'd want, given everything with Sullivan." Olivia moved from her chair to sit beside him on the sofa, taking his hands in hers. "Edgar took many things from me, but he doesn't get to take my future, our future." She placed his palm against her abdomen. "And he certainly doesn't get to deny me the joy of carrying your child." Isaac's eyes widened. "Olivia, are you?" She nodded, smiling through sudden tears. "I think so. It's early yet, but I'm almost certain. Come spring, there will be new life on this ranch besides calves and foals." The joy that transformed Isaac's face was like nothing Olivia had ever seen. He gathered her carefully in his arms as if she had suddenly become fragile, precious glass. "A baby," he whispered against her hair. "Our baby." That winter was harsh but beautiful. Heavy snows blanketed the land, bringing a hush to the world outside. Inside the cabin, expanded now with a second room Isaac had built during the fall, warmth and contentment reigned. As Olivia's body changed, growing round with their child, Isaac's protectiveness increased. He insisted on doing the heaviest chores, bringing in wood and water, trudging through snowdrifts to check on livestock so she wouldn't have to risk a fall. "I'm pregnant, not invalid," Olivia reminded him one evening, laughing as he fussed over her position by the fire. "Indulge me," Isaac replied, adjusting the blanket around her shoulders. "I've never had anyone to care for before." On the anniversary of the night Isaac had found her half frozen in the snow, they sat together watching another blizzard rage outside their windows. The contrast between that desperate night and this peaceful evening wasn't lost on either of them. "A year ago I thought I was going to die," Olivia mused, her hand resting on her swollen belly where their child kicked vigorously. "I had no hope, no future." Isaac knelt beside her chair, placing his hand next to hers to feel their baby's movements. "And now," Olivia smiled, framing his beloved face with her free hand. "Now I have everything, a home, a husband who loves me, a child on the way." She leaned forward to kiss him softly. "You saved more than my life that night, Isaac Tucker. You saved my soul." "We saved each other," Isaac corrected gently. "I was just as lost before you came into my life, just as frozen in my own way." As the blizzard raged outside, much like the one that had brought them together, they held each other close, secure in the knowledge that they had found in each other not just shelter from the storm, but a home for their hearts. Spring arrived with its usual Nebraska uncertainty, one day warm and sunny, the next blustery and cold. By April, the snow had mostly melted, leaving behind muddy fields and the first tender shoots of green. The days lengthened, and the animals grew restless after the long winter confinement. Olivia's time grew near. Her body felt ungainly, her movements slow and deliberate as she waddled rather than walked. Isaac had sent for the midwife from town to stay with them for the final weeks, not wanting to risk Olivia being alone when her labor began. Mrs. Thornton, the midwife, was a no-nonsense woman of 60 with gray hair and keen eyes that missed nothing. She approved of the preparations. Isaac had made the cradle he'd crafted from pine, the tiny clothes Olivia had sewn during the winter evenings, the spotlessly clean room they'd prepared for the birth. "You've done well, young man," Mrs. Thornton told Isaac. "Most first-time fathers are useless, but you seem to have your wits about you." The labor began on a perfect spring morning. The sun shone brightly, and the meadow beyond the cabin was alive with wildflowers. Olivia's waters broke as she was helping Isaac collect eggs from the chicken coop. "Isaac," she called, her voice steady despite the sudden dampness down her legs. "It's time." What followed was 20 hours of the hardest work Olivia had ever done. The pain was beyond anything she could have imagined, but Isaac never left her side. He wiped her brow, held her hand through contractions, murmured encouragement when she thought she couldn't continue. "You're the strongest person I've ever known," he told her as another contraction gripped her. "You can do this, Olivia. Our baby is almost here." Just as dawn was breaking on the second day, with a final tremendous effort, Olivia brought their son into the world. His lusty cry filled the cabin, and Mrs. Thornton placed the squalling, red-faced infant on Olivia's chest. "A healthy boy," the midwife announced with satisfaction. "Good lungs on him, too." Olivia stared in wonder at the tiny being she and Isaac had created. His damp hair was dark like his father's, but his eyes, when they briefly opened, were light they might turn blue like Isaac's once the newborn haziness cleared. "Isaac," she whispered, looking up at her husband's awestruck face, "look what we did." Isaac's hand trembled as he touched their son's tiny fist. "He's perfect," he said, voice thick with emotion, "just like his mother." They named him William James Tucker after both their fathers. Will, as they called him, proved to be a good-natured baby with his father's calm temperament and his mother's determined spirit. He thrived on the ranch, growing strong in the clean Nebraska air. By the time Will was taking his first tentative steps, Olivia was pregnant again. Their daughter, Catherine Ann, arrived the following spring, a delicate beauty with Olivia's auburn hair and her father's blue eyes. 5 years after the blizzard that had brought them together, Isaac and Olivia stood on the porch of their expanded home, watching their children play in the yard with the puppies from their sheepdog's recent litter. The ranch had prospered, growing to 300 acres with a herd of prime cattle and a respected breeding program for quarter horses. The original cabin had been expanded into a proper house, with multiple bedrooms, a large kitchen, and even a parlor where Olivia gave piano lessons to neighboring children. "Did you ever imagine this?" Isaac asked, his arm around Olivia's waist as they watched 7-year-old Will teaching his 4-year-old sister how to throw a ball. "Never," Olivia admitted. "Even in my most hopeful moments, I couldn't have dreamed a life this beautiful." Isaac turned her gently to face him. At 39, his dark hair was touched with silver at the temples, and the lines around his eyes had deepened from years of working in the sun. To Olivia, he was more handsome than ever. "Any regrets?" he asked, searching her face. "About staying that day when you were going to run?" "About marrying a rough rancher instead of going back to town?" Olivia rose on her tiptoes to kiss him. After all these years, the touch of his lips still sent warmth spreading through her body. "Not a single one," she assured him. "You're the best decision I ever made, Isaac Tucker." From the yard, Will's voice called out, "Pa, come see, Kate's throwing real good now." Isaac grinned. "Duty calls." Olivia watched as he jogged down the porch steps to join their children, scooping Catherine up and swinging her high into the air as she shrieked with delight. Her heart swelled with gratitude for the life they had built together. She had run into a blizzard that night long ago, seeking escape from a man who had made her existence a living hell. Instead, she had found a future brighter than she could have imagined, with a man whose gentle strength had helped her rebuild not just her life, but her sense of self-worth. As the spring sunshine bathed her family in golden light, Olivia offered a silent prayer of thanksgiving. For second chances. For safe harbors. For a love that had begun in the darkest night of winter but had bloomed into something beautiful and enduring. And as Isaac looked up, catching her eye with a smile that still made her heart skip, Olivia knew with absolute certainty that this family, this home, this love was where she truly belonged.